Hi there, this is me, Nina. Nina with Sunshine, S-O-N. Um, I was debating whether or not I should do this or not because I'm pretty tired, but I think I'll go ahead and do it because it's kind of a timely thing. Um, it's a good time to do this because it is about what's going to be going on tonight with the debate, as everybody knows. From what I keep hearing, it's a historical event. It's a historical because it's probably the circumstances have never been like this before. Never. So this is going to be very interesting, and I know that a lot of people are feeling the urgency of the time of the moment, and so this is really important. And choosing a leader, it used to be years ago in this country, choosing a leader was not so complicated. I mean, usually, and it was always, between two parties, and sometimes it was, a third or fourth or just some other small, things. But it was usually, and it usually involved leaders who, Democrat, Republican, and they were, they got along for the most part. They were respectful for the most part. They were, the differences were not as different as they are now. I mean, the differences used to be, they disagreed on, a few policies, a few things, right? And it wasn't even, but for the most part, everybody who was campaigning, everybody who was running, they all loved America. They loved America. They wanted the best for America. They disagreed on some issues, some policies. Sometimes they were important, especially when it came to war and a lot of other things. But what I'm saying is, a long time ago, it wasn't so. What's the word I'm trying to say? Like the differences between the people running were not that wide. It was you could probably, if your candidate didn't win, you weren't devastated because you knew the country would still be okay, because you had the separation of powers. You knew that even if it wasn't the leader that you chose, it was at least, somebody who, would still follow the law, follow the rules, follow and who loved America and wanted to help America the best they could, best they could see fit. And but see, it's different now. This is different. These are very different times. We're talking. The parties have split so wide. I mean, it's like so different, like night and day different. Like good and evil different. It's very different. This is very different, and that's why it's so important. And everybody keeps saying that this election, a lot of people are saying this election, and what God chooses to do, right, with that, can make us or break us. And it could. Now, I'm not saying that it will, because God could step in any time, even if, like in my case, I'm voting for Trump, of course. I'm a conservative Christian, but even if the other guy wins, I'm going to be devastated in a way, but also I'm not going to lose hope, because as long as I know God, I'll never lose hope. And I know that God can step in at any time He wants to, and can change everything in a drop of a hat. Anyway, so, you know, choosing a leader, you know, is very important. And, you know, some people think, oh, it doesn't really matter. Well, a long time ago, like I said, it maybe didn't matter that much, right? Didn't matter. It's not no big deal. But it matters today. It really does matter because they are so different. One is trying to represent the America we have always known and loved, right? And then one is trying to represent something very radically different. And to be honest, this is the same ideology that the previous leaders before him, the Democrat previous leaders, it's just kind of following along with what they started, you know, back with Obama and the Clintons and the, you know, it's just the same policies that a lot of us, you know, don't like. And so choosing a leader is very important. It does matter. It does matter who you elected. You know, some people say, oh, well, it doesn't matter what their religious beliefs are. Really? Are you telling me that your faith, you know, the core of yourself, you know, is your faith in what you believe, that has nothing to do with your character, your abilities, your honesty, your integrity? You know, you do. Of course, that matters. That all matters. And then, you know, some people say, well, it doesn't matter what their culture is. You know, what their cultural beliefs. You know, or even nationality. Well, yeah, it does matter. You know, because. You know, for the most part, we've had mostly Christian presidents, and, you know, which is one of the reasons why we've had such solidarity, you know, all these years, because we had leaders that aligned up with what the majority of the people in the country believed, so there was no conflict, right? We all believed in the same thing. We all wanted the same things, and you know, honored the same things, honored the same God and things like that. It does matter. You get somebody in there from a different culture, right, and a different foreign country with foreign ideas. You know, that's not going to work with a majority people in our country who are mostly Christian, right, or even just the way we live, you know, the freedoms we have, the traditions we have. You know, you get somebody from China, right, stepping into our leadership, they're going to expect us to live by their beliefs, right, their God, their beliefs, their communistic politics. And same thing if you get a Muslim person in there. They're going to want us to live by their Muslim politics and their Muslim religion. Okay, and some people say, "Oh no, we can leave religion out of it." Really? Have you noticed some things? Because I you know, we got leaders in our government right now who are Muslim, and some of them are from other countries that are, say, third world countries, you know, or communists. We got some in there that are from you know, China, you know, and you know, they are different. They are different, you know. Like, for instance, when our ally Israel, when they were being attacked, right? Guess who the leaders were in our government, who were almost cheering it on, and who were standing up for the enemy, right? The radical Muslims who were attacking Israel. Guess who was not supporting Israel, not supporting what most Americans were supporting? It was the ones who are very different, right? You just can't put a leader from a totally different ideology, totally different political view, totally different culture and a foreign land that has lived so differently, who lives so differently, right? You can't expect them to be able to make decisions, the right decisions for a people that are totally different than they are. People keep saying, "Oh, we can separate it." No, you can't, because we have a republic, and they're supposed to be using our republic, our documents, our Constitution, our what's the other document called? Anyway, our written documents that formulated everything, the foundation of everything that started in this country. That's what we're supposed to be going by. And these leaders, some of these leaders will not, just like what we're seeing now, they don't honor the republic. They don't honor the Republican rule. They don't honor the documents. They don't honor what we have been living by all these years. So that's why we have a republic and not a democracy. Because if we had a democracy, what you're seeing right now, you rushing in of many foreigners because of the Democratic Party, bringing them here, right, inviting them here. And what they're trying to do is get a whole new sector of different people so that there is not a majority of Americans, right? So because we honor our republic and our documents, these foreigners are not going to do that. They don't understand that, and they're going to vote for the other guy who wants democracy, because democracy is about the majority of the people. Now, see, it's always been that the majority of the people always supported the republic, right, and our documents. But if you get enough people in this country who are not for that, like you see now, they're not. Many of the judges, many of our leaders in office right now under this Democrat Party, they are not honoring the republic. They're not honoring the documents, the laws. They're not honoring laws, our laws. So we're seeing what's happening when there's a breakdown. When there's a breakdown of our government, the breakdown of the way things have been going all along, and why we were so successful, and why we were a great and united country and successful. Besides the fact that we have our God, and we were a Christian nation under God, and anyway, everything matters. Everything matters. And I'm not trying to, I'm not racist. I don't hate anybody. But I don't want somebody running this country who's not going to run this country like the America we have ever known it to be. Because a lot of these people do not want America anymore, right? There's so many different ideas out there. A lot of people, some people want to turn us into communist countries. Some people want to turn us into globalism, meaning there is no country, that we're all just one big world doing the same thing under the same leadership. So a lot of people want that. Then you got, the Muslims who declare that they want to take over the world and run the world under their Islamic rule, right? Then you have the Chinese, who are obviously trying to take over a large part of the world, and including our country, because they want to run things there, because they're communists, right? Communists have a tendency to do that, right? Anyway, so picking a good leader, there's some things, a lot of examples in the Bible, about leadership, kingship. Leaders with the Jewish people, the priests, the leadership, and religious leaders, and leaders and kings of nations, and pretty good. A lot of examples. First, let me read this. This is in Mark 10:42 to 45. So Jesus called them together and said, you know that the rulers in this world lord lord it over their people, and officials flaunt their authority over those that are under them. But under you it will be different. Whoever wants to be a leader among you must be a servant, and whoever wants to be the first among you must be the slave of everyone else. For even the Son of Man came not to serve, not to be served, but to serve others, and to give his life as a ransom for many. So he's trying to say that a good leader truly cares about his people, and he will work for his people. You know, they don't make us work for them. They are working for us. That's how it's supposed to be. We choose them. We vote them in. We vote on the bills. You know, they're supposed to represent us, the people, which doesn't always happen that way, does it? So this is Jesus saying what a good leader is. So remember that. If you're looking at you're looking at these two candidates, who's serving the people? Who's giving up things to help people? Who's telling the truth? You know, one of the things a point I wanted to bring up was in the Bible. You know, all the different kings in the Bible. We have a lot of evil kings in the Bible. You have Israel, and you know, Israel had over many years. They were up and down. You know, sometimes they were divided, and you had Israel and Judah, and then you had the different the wars going on, you know, between sometimes Israel and Judah, and sometimes it was the enemies of Israel and Judah, and they would always be like this, right? It'd come down, split apart, or the enemies would come in and take over, you know, Babylon or Egypt. The enemies would come and take over, and then the Lord would help, and they could defeat their enemies, and then they had their country back again, and then they would fight, and then they would break, and then there'd be different kingdoms, and there'd be different tribes, and it's like it was always up and down. Well, if you notice, like in Kings and all throughout the Bible, you know, it's talking about this. But the kings and leaderships, the ones that stayed under God, that stayed and obeyed Him, stayed listening to His laws and the commandments, and honored Him, they were the ones that were blessed. They were very blessed, and their nations thrived, and they were very blessed. You know, but the ones that, you know, you get a great king, right? You know, David, Solomon, like, you know, and then their children would come into power or whatever. But then they'd have this one evil son. They would become king, or he would become evil as a king, and he would start doing things. You know, he'd start worshiping idols and started worshiping other gods, and building altars to false gods, and he. And then, you know, these are the type of kings and kingdoms that would eventually be taken down by their enemies. The Lord would take His hand off of them. He would not protect them, and they were overtaken by their enemies, right? So it just kept happening all through history, kingdom dividing against kingdom. And every time this was happening, and every time the enemies would come in, unfortunately, a lot of bad things were happening. Of course, many died. Many, you know, were tortured or whatever. They also many special things in the temples, the artifacts, the books, a lot of books, things like that would be destroyed. Every time the enemies would come in, they would destroy the temple, destroy everything in it, the books, and probably a lot of wonderful artifacts, a lot of wonderful things. And then had a lot of kingdoms that, you know, once they became evil and affected by, they would allow bad influences to come in, and they'd sin greatly and start sinning greatly, start doing horrible things, you know, murdering people and sacrificing babies to their gods, and you know, and the one that stands out and everybody knows about is Jezebel. And she was evil. She was a daughter of a king, and she married Ahab, and he was the 8th king of Israel. And under being with her, of course, he became badly influenced, and she was evil. She killed many of God's people, many of his prophets and the people of God. She seduced many to sexual sin, a lot of really bad sexual sin. And of course, a lot of these really evil kings, I think most, if not all of them, died a terrible death. And some of them were prophesied to them that they would die a terrible death, and they did. Some of them, I think one king got leprosy real bad, and Jezebel, I think she was eaten by dogs. Anyway, it was a lot of, eventually they get what they deserve, right? And but see, back in those days, now God would use the prophets and the priests to try to advise the kings, or try to condemn them, or try to warn them. God used the prophets and the priests to try to keep the kings in line, try to keep them, under his grace, under his favor, so the nation could be under his favor. The nation could be in good standing and last many years and be successful and be protected, have God's protection, right? And that happened. That happened with these leaders. And sometimes leaders would, they'd be doing okay. These kings would be doing okay. Then all of a sudden they start sinning, or they get involved with other gods. I think, was it King Solomon? He had many wives. I don't know why. He had hundreds of wives, concubines, or whatever. And a lot of them were foreign wives, and they unfortunately brought a lot of their gods from their countries and into the temples, and Solomon even started some worshiping and things like that. So, but I think that he repented. I think he repented, and he got right with God again. So I mean, sometimes that happened too. The kings would go off. They'd do something. They'd sin, and then they'd turn back to God again, and he'd forgive them, and he'd help them, and that happened a lot too. So so I mean, if you want to, even the Bible will show you, the up and downs of the nations, up and down of the kingships, and depending on, if they were pleasing God or not. That was a big deal. That means a lot. If we right now, with our leadership, the way and the things they have been doing that are totally against the principles of God, many things that are against the principles of God. Our country's not doing too good. We're not doing too good. We've never been had so much danger, violence. We've never had so much conflict. We've never had so much, a lot of hate groups in our country right now. A lot of foreigners flowing into our country. That's been going on for 3 years under Biden now. And Lord knows, some of them are just people who want to live a better life, and they've been promised things by the Democrat Party. But then you have a lot of hostile people coming in here too, with hostile intentions. And so, I mean, if you tie that in with what our leadership has been doing, the decisions they've been making, which are against God, now look what's happening to our country. And the violence in the cities, the violence everywhere, and people having a hard time, Anyway, I'm not trying to, scare you or anything, but I'm just trying to say this is what happens when you don't have godly leadership. It is important. It does matter. So don't listen to these people saying it doesn't matter. It does. It does matter. See, if I'm going to look at leadership, and you should be looking at leadership, look at their qualities and what they can offer. Like who does love God? Who has a faith, a good faith? Who loves our country? Who loves our people? Who wants to keep us safe? Who is honest? Who has good ideas? Who has new ideas? Who has proven successful ideas? Who lives up to God's principles? things like freedom of religion and freedom of speech. Who values life? Who values the life of a baby in a womb, and who does not? Who values the family and family safe environments? Who values, who wants better schools and safer schools for our kids with better influences, better teachers, better principals, who line up with the American way? Which one wants to improve our security? Who wants to protect us from our enemies? Who wants to protect us in our borders? Who wants to help our police and support our police to protect us and our military? Who wants, who wants to do something about and fix the problems we have, especially in our corrupt courts? Who wants to fix that? Who wants to take out the corrupt leaders and the corruption in our government, in the courts, and anywhere? Who wants to better our schools, better everything? Who wants to do these things? I mean, they're simple. They're simple questions, right? I mean, if you want to be honest, you can't just vote for somebody because, well, my mom did. My grandparents did. All my family's ever voted for is a Democrat or Republican. It shouldn't be about that. It should be who's the better leader, who's going to help America, who's going to save America, who's going to make the right decisions, who is strong enough, who's smart enough. Who's going to who's going to help us, Who's going to please God the most? Who's going to please God the most, which is going to bring God's favor back on our nation again, and bring his goodness back in our streets again, and bring goodness back into our government buildings again, and our schools and our churches? Who's going to do that? Who lines up with that? Just think about that. Well, I know this is very long, but I'm not even sure I'll put this up. I'll just see. But hope it's not offensive. I don't mean it to be that way at all. But this is very important. This is very important. Choosing our leadership means a lot. It does. It does matter. Everything matters. If you want to save our future, our kids' future, please consider these things. Consider what God would want you to do. Okay? All right, well, that's it. Remember, the debate tonight starts at 9. CNN, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be probably on some of the other ones too. But anyway, pay attention. Pay attention to all the details. And pray. By all means, please pray. Pray, pray, pray. Our country needs it. And all right, well, God loves you. He still loves America. He does. We are still a Christian nation. We're just like Israel. Israel's the apple of his eye. We're in there too somewhere. He loves us too. We belong to him. We've been a Christian nation for a very long time, and we still are. I mean, he does love us. So we just need to we need to pray. We need to hang in there and believe and trust, and make sure you're telling the truth. People need to hear the truth. We need to hear the truth about what's going on. They need to hear the truth about what God can do to help us, and about God, in his word, his promises. Tell the truth. And yeah, all right, I guess that's it. Okay, well, hang in there. Okay, have peace. God loves you, and I love you too. Don't forget. Bye.